Welcome back to another episode of Chatting Cinema. Luke, did you want to tee us up today?
I saw this TikTok where a guy went through and basically said like the 10 best video game movie adaptations. And he led off by saying the bar is exceedingly low and like the first six options weren't great movies. And now we have a plethora of video game movies and TV shows on the horizon. And we've had a recent positive note because Sonic, Detective Pikachu, Free Guy, all pretty fun movies. And The Last of Us TV shows coming. So I think it could be a good time to kind of discuss what other franchises we'd love to see tapped for either a video game or a TV show. And I thought it'd be fun if we could attach actors or directors, whatever we want. So to lead it off, one of my favorite video games from back in the day that helped me convinced by a PS3, and I don't regret it at all, was Infamous. And I feel like with the superhero craze, Infamous is just a story that's waiting to happen. And I would love to see the crew that makes The Boys take it on for Amazon Prime, because I feel like that tone and like those kind of visual effects and like world feels similar enough where it's like it's the morally gray superhero universe. And I kind of like that. Not saying add him to the universe, but I think the way they've interpreted The Boys would work really well with Infamous, because Infamous was such a fun video game. You got to choose to be evil or good, and we could get weird with it and like maybe do like a simultaneous season where there's like a hero story and a villain story and you choose which one to follow, because I feel like that could be a fun way to get people in. Or even like how Netflix did that one Black Mirror episode, like that would be a lot, but I feel like that concept could be played with and be pretty fun. And I mean, Infamous is just a fun game. It was one of the first major like hero games that I can remember that wasn't just like a terrible movie knockoff game. Like it was an actual story with a cool combat like system, and like the whole choosing good or bad stuff was really cool. So I think that would work really well. And I mean, tying it into a new game would just help sales immediately. So I feel like that one's kind of a no-brainer.
Nice. My first one, coming off the heels of Pokemon Legends Arceus, is a Pokemon game. And we already had Detective Pikachu, which was good, but I want to see like a really traditional trainer taking on the world of Pokemon, going out, catching them all. And we've had Pokemon films in the past, obviously, but not a live action one. Um, I don't know where I would go with casting, but the director that I would want to really bring this to life is Chris Columbus. I think he would
Ooh.
nail the concept, and we know that he's capable of bringing worlds to life. So that would be really cool to see. But yeah, and it doesn't even have to follow like a story of any of the games. Just make something up, but keep it in the world of Pokemon, and that would be pretty neat. My only thing is I want to see the Sinnoh region on screen.
Mm.
But yeah, that's my first
I was
pick.
I was gonna say which region, because I would love to see pretty much any of them come to
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
but Sinnoh probably is at the top of the list too.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you go Sinnoh, you have like a bit more, it's a bit more wide open with which Pokemon you can include, because it's
Mhm.
like you can still take people's favorites and put them into the Sinnoh region, but then still have that main. Yeah, I love that. I'm surprised we haven't gotten like, more word on a legitimate, with no offense to Detective Pikachu, but that's like its own thing, like
Right.
a legitimate, more traditional in the lines of the mainline game series movie. Um, my first one, I've been talking about writing this script since high school. I don't know if you'll remember this, Gianni, but I definitely talked about it in theater at some point, because I think this would be the easiest video game script to write. Punch Out, the boxing game. So Punch Out to me, like, not that it has a massive fan base that would flock to, cinemas, but it has its own little niche fan base. It's, a beloved Nintendo franchise from back in the day. And I just think like it's just Rocky. Like it just seems to me that when you have a lot of these ideas for video game movies, video games are their own thing and they go more fantastical directions, and they have some stuff that's more experiential. So it's harder to replicate that for the big screen. But Punch Out is a movie where we have proof of concept movies and they're well liked. So that started rumbling in my head, I think, right around the time Creed came out, and Creed was doing well and people were into it. And I was like, we try and take these harder to adapt video games because they're the most popular. But I think that more than just video game fans would come to see Punch Out. Like it's a sports movie, it's a prototypical underdog story. I don't have a director, but I did say Henry Golding as Little Mac
I like
Ooh,
that.
for my casting.
I'm in
So
for that.
yeah, so I just think that that's one that's like really like easily that somebody could knock out and do a really good job with, and it wouldn't be seen with like disdain as a video game movie. So that is my first pitch, all the way back from high school, Punch Out movie.
Been holding on to that one for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my second one that I have now, I know a lot of times they think like it has to be live action, but just like with superhero movies and Into the Spider-Verse, I feel like video games never rely on animated movies to their advantage because they're animated games. Sometimes it would just work well. And I really think if you give the reins to Lord and Miller for a Sly Cooper movie, it could be one of the most fun movies
Ooh.
ever. Like just the way they nailed Spider-Verse and like the universe and characters, or like the world they built in the Lego movie, or how in the Mitchells versus the Machines we came to care about that family so fast in 2 hours. Talk about Sly Cooper and his gang. Like I would freaking love to see like a really clever mystery movie, like, but in that animated style. And Sly Cooper is some of my favorite games. I've played them ever since I was a little kid growing up, and like the HD collection, I played the crap out of that when that came out. And I just think it's kind of a no-brainer for video games to lean on animation more too, because sometimes you don't like. I don't want to see a live-action Sly Cooper. I want to see him animated, but just more of a serious story, and like instead of hours of gameplay, 2 hours of a movie. I just feel like that works really well.
I love that idea. And I think
Yeah.
it kind of leads into mine a little bit. When you came up with this idea for this episode today, I thought, all right, let me make my second choice like the most ridiculous thing possible, but also maybe not that ridiculous. Dwayne Johnson recently came out saying that he's working on a video game movie that like everyone's gonna be hyped about. And I'm like, what could that be? And I think, even if it's not, it should be Fortnite because he recently debuted in Fortnite. And I just think that it's like a no-brainer for any studio who wants to make a bajillion dollars. Just put that in a theater and you're going to get kids across the country and the world going to see it because it's Fortnite, the movie. Keep it fully animated. I don't know, bring in the people who did Wreck-It Ralph or something.
Mm.
I think it's a no-brainer. And they already have access to so many IPs through all the skins that they put in the game. Like you can have Spider-Man in your game. You can have the DC crossover that everyone wants with Marvel. Like you can do all those things.
Yeah.
And then the possibilities for sequels are just endless. But have The Rock
Endless.
leading it as the foundation. And I
Mm.
think it's kind of a no-brainer, but also ridiculous because it's Fortnite. But
I mean, you would have millions of kids across the country and world going to see it, and Gianni and I's asses would be in the seats day
Yeah.
one
Oh,
immediately.
day
With
one.
the amount of Fortnite we've played, it's unhealthy, but it's also very healthy because we work on our combat skills that we'll definitely need at some point in life.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Fortnite. I mean, if The Rock reveals that it's Fortnite, I think that would break the internet.
Oh, it would 100%.
Yeah, that's I didn't know what my guess would be for what The Rock was talking about, but now I'm completely on board with you. I think it's Fortnite. Like that makes so much sense. And like you said, it's a no-brainer. It's so funny. You guys just went with Sly Cooper and Fortnite, which I think are such great options, and I'm going to go in 100% completely the different direction here. It's Resident Evil Biohazard.
Ooh.
So okay, so
Yeah,
this
pretty
is
similar games.
yeah, right. This is the seventh entry in the mainline Resident Evil franchise. And I don't know if it's just because personally I came to Resident Evil really late. I came sort of right, probably like a year before Village came out. But I really like those are my favorite Resident Evil games, Biohazard and Village. But with Biohazard, it's one of those things where I think that we already have proof of concept elsewhere. And I think it's something like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which, it's has a lot of clear influences from, especially a particular scene at a dinner table in that game is lifted straight from Texas Chainsaw. But I think that like down south, dilapidated house horror, survival horror where something in the night is chasing you is so good. And like I said, you really have a blueprint for it in something like Texas Chainsaw. So I haven't seen X yet, but based on what I've seen from X, maybe Ty West would be down to do this too, Resident Evil Biohazard. But like I said, like I think that that's such a good horror setting, and Resident Evil has had 25,000 movies come out, and it hasn't had one good movie come out. I watched Welcome to Raccoon City when it came on digital, and it is, no offense to anybody who worked on that movie or made that movie, it's dreadful. It's so bad. And I don't understand what we're doing here. But I think that if you did Biohazard, you would have a bit more leeway because Resident Evil is such a beloved franchise that when you start doing something like Welcome to Raccoon City, you have Leon and you have Claire and you have Chris and you have Jill, even like Wesker, where you have all these characters where people have like deep emotional attachments to them and have a very specific vision for how they want them to act. I don't think anybody feels that way about Ethan Winters since you don't really see his face in that game. It's more about you experiencing the horror. So I think that they would have more freedom to kind of do what they wanted with Biohazard because it's not as ingrained into the psyche of fans as the early Resident Evil stuff is. So down south, hard R horror, Resident Evil Biohazard is my second pick.
Yeah, so the idea that kind of spawned this when after I watched that TikTok and I thought of this, I was like, ooh, I mean, I don't know how much of an audience there is for this movie built in, because I think a lot of people would end up going to see it, much like the studio's other movies. But I would love it if Laika took on Little Big Planet, because Laika makes some of the most visually interesting movies ever. I don't care if you're one of the naysayers that say animation's not cinema. What Laika does is so incredibly hard. And if you see any of their behind the scenes, your mind will be blown. But I feel like just the world of Little Big Planet is already so Laika-fied. Like just the main characters, all the different worlds. You don't even have to use anything from the games aside from Sackboy and like the rocket ship, but like you could also take from the games. I played all three of those games. I played the race car spinoff. I played like the PlayStation Vita version one. Like I adore that series so much because of how creative and unique it is. And I feel like the Lego movie kind of opened people up to movies like that, where it's like endless world, but like you're following someone within it. And I feel like Sackboy is just such a fun character. Just like there's not much there yet, but like Leica could populate that world in a way that I think would make it just like a banger. I mean, look at all the Leica movies that just come out of nowhere. I mean, before Paranorman came out, there was no hype. Like barely anybody was excited to see that movie. And now it's like one of them like October cult favorites that plays on ABC Family's 25 Days of Halloween every year, 13 days, whatever. Like their movies always kind of grow a fan base around something. And I think Little Big Planet's world is just so perfect for that. And like that being one of my favorite game series, it just made sense. I was like, oh, I would love to see that. And like just like the weird props and things they build, and like Little Big Planet, that's all you do. All you do is create weird things. They want you to make something out of the ordinary that only you could think of. And I think that message is really cool to get out there to kids now. Cause like, I mean, you have kids creating TikToks, you have kids making their own stuff because their iPhones have amazing cameras in it. And it's like get them even more sparked creatively, just because that was the whole point of Little Big Planet games. I mean, I spent hours building stuff on there. And if that's like with the eventual Little Big Planet 4 release, oh my God, I'd lose my mind. I would feel like I'm 12 again.
Yeah, all good picks. I'd like to see any one of them on the big screen.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that's great about video game movies is people are finally like giving them a chance. I mean, like we have Uncharted coming out, and then there's so many others that are like in the works, rumored. I mean, I think something about Halo show just dropped yesterday.
Yeah,
I don't know if it
trailer
looked,
for a Halo show.
I don't know if it looked good because I didn't watch it, but I haven't played many Halo games, so I feel like I couldn't speak on it. But like I still feel like a God of War movie would be sick. Like
Yeah,
there's so many game franchises that are just sitting there, and it's like yes, it's not the most creative thing in the world to just pick an IP and make a movie based off of it, but like still a lot of great things can come from that. And I mean, that's what's happening with superheroes. So it's like
Yeah.
if they kind of figure out their formula, figure out how it works, and like to do something that's meaningful to watch, like not just like Rampage where Dwayne the Rock Johnson's in it and is like this was based off of a video game from the 90s loosely, like whatever. But like a movie like Free Guy, where it really takes some big concepts about video games and about virtual worlds and makes you think about it. So I think we're kind of getting to that time where we might start seeing them because like we didn't think Detective Pikachu was going to be good. We didn't think Sonic was going to be good. And they're
Yeah.
fun movies. And I really hope Uncharted surprises us because we're all pretty middle ground about it right now. We're like, yes, we love Tom Holland, but why is Mark Wahlberg Sully? We'll never understand that. But video game movies could get good quick, and I really hope they are because there's so many good IPs out there.
Yeah, I agree. Closing thoughts on that. Like Luke, like you just said, there used to be not even that long ago, there was just like an automatic stigma that like this is something that can't be good video game movies. And I think that that's like completely dissipated in not that long a time because even as you were just talking, I was thinking about the Jumanji reboot too. And like people loved that, were super into it. And it's one of those things like you were saying with Free Guy, where it's not a specific video game, but it's taking more conceptual things about video games and putting them into the cinematic form. So yeah, I don't think that there's this stigma anymore. And I think that whether Uncharted is good or fine or bad, I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to do business. So that's just a boon for doing more of this. And I think that the Last of Us series is going to be great based on the talent that they have involved. So I do think that we are entering a new era where like a lot of these are really possible now, and studios are going to be less hesitant to kind of get into this. And I would like to see more animation, like you were saying, but I don't know. Chris Pratt's Mario movie might kill that, and we might be back to square one.
It might
We'll
kill
see.
that real fast.
That's been the looming thought in the back of my mind this whole episode is that Mario
Yeah.
movie. I'm like,
What do you mean?
that's
Just
happening.
Chris Pratt sitting there like with a Mario hat on going, hey guys, it's me, Mario. Ha.
I am Mario.
Yeah,
But
we can
fingers
ignore that
crossed. I'm
one.
optimistic. I'm optimistic about the future of video game movies.
I mean, listen, as superhero movies were on the rise, we got our X-Men Origin Wolverine. Like it happened. It wasn't
Yeah.
good, but people kind of ignored that one and kept seeing the MCU movies. So let's hope that happens to the Mario movie.
Yeah. It
Watch
could be
win,
great.
like,
Who
Best
knows?
Picture.
Yeah.
It could win
Yeah.
Best Picture.
It
Oh
could be
my
amazing.
God.
Oh.
Listen,
No,
if it's good, we're coming back. We're clipping this part of the episode, and we're going to call ourselves out. Like
yes,
I
I
want
would
that
be
to
happy to be
100%.
wrong.
Yeah.
happen.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap up this one on video game adaptations, and we'll catch you in the next one.